Hello and welcome to another Tri-tutors video. In today's video we're going to analyze the poem Walking Away by Cecil Lewis. Walking Away. It is 18 years ago, almost to the day, a sunny day with leaves just turning, the touchlines new ruled, since I watched you play your first game of football, then, like a satellite wrenched from its orbit, go drifting away. So this poem is from the perspective of a father to a son. So the speaker is the father of this boy, and he is now making the decision, as it says in the title, of walking away from his child. And what this means is that his child is now grown up, he's become independent, and so now as the parent, he realizes that the best thing that he can do for his child is allow him to be his own person and allow him to be independent and allow him to be a fully fledged adult. And so therefore he has to make this difficult decision to sort of walk away. And so throughout the poem we're going to have this very reflective father speaking about watching his son grow up and watching him gain this independence through all these different milestones in his life. And ultimately he's going to come to the conclusion that by letting his son go and letting him be free, he's actually being sort of the best parental figure that he could be. So if you notice, and I hope that you have noticed if you've read the whole poem, that the word away is repeated quite a bit. So I've already circled it in the title here, away, and this shows us how the speaker believes that in order for his son to thrive, he needs to be sort of away from his son at this point in time. So it is 18 years ago, almost to the day. So almost to the day, this shows how this memory is so important that he has remembered the specific day in which it occurred. And then we have a dash, and this dash works in conjunction with the dash in line 3, and this is used parentheses. It's showing the setting or the context that's established. It's extra information about this memory. It was a sunny day with leaves just turning, the touch lines new ruled. So it sets up the scene in our mind. And then he continues, since I watched you play your first game of football. So this is a very big moment in a young child's life, right? To have their first football game, to have their parents on the sidelines watching them. It's a very sort of big moment. I want you to notice in this stanza how there's a lot of enjambment. Enjambment is when there's run-on lines where the line doesn't end on a full stop, it continues on to the next line. And so this enjambment has, it's effective because for two reasons. Firstly, it mimics the authentic conversational, so any authentic conversation where we don't really just end our sentences exactly. And so this is like the speaker is just accessing this memory in a very raw and authentic and real way, and he's reflecting on it. It also emphasizes how quickly and rapidly the sun is growing up because the lines never seem to stop. They never give us a break. It just shows us how quickly the sun is growing up. And then we have this great simile, like a satellite wrenched from its orbit. And I want you to notice the use of diction over here, wrenched. Wrench has very violent connotations. And so here the speaker compares his son to a satellite who is wrenched away from his orbit. Orbit is the path that his parents have made for him, right? The regular sort of pattern of staying with his parents and of following in their footsteps, of doing what they want him to do. And so this satellite or the sun, he's been wrenched away, he's been taken away from his orbit. And this shows us how the use of the violent connotation shows how, maybe the speaker hasn't come to terms with it exactly yet, hasn't come to terms with the fact that his son is no longer in his orbit, in his control, in his, within his setting anymore, that his son is now on a different path. So that use of the word wrenched, those connotations show us maybe he hasn't come to terms with it yet. Go drifting away. And so he's gone away. And if you think about, as I said, we're watching that use of the repetition of away. And at this point, it says drifting away. And if you're drifting, it means you don't have any direction. And so at this point, we can see maybe the parent, maybe the speaker is a little bit worried. Now he's not following the path that his parents laid out for him, the orbit, but has he found his new path, or is he just drifting away? Behind a scatter of boys, I can see you walking away from me towards the school with the pathos of a half-fledged thing set free into a wilderness, the gait of one who finds no path where the path should be. So now we follow the sun into a different setting. Behind a scatter of boys, I can see you walking away from me towards the school. So now he's starting at this new school. And so you'll notice that the speaker keeps showing us different settings and keeps reminding us or showing us these different settings and then explaining how the son needs to adapt and tackle these different situations in life, right? So these are all things that happen in your childhood, like your first football game, going to a new school, but they're all preparing you for life, right? And adapting and adjusting to different situations. With the pathos of a half-fledged thing set free. So pathos means evoking pity or sympathy. And half-fledged means not fully mature. And this is an example of a metaphor and of imagery because we usually talk about a half-fledged bird or a fledgling, and this is a bird that cannot exactly fly it. So half-fledged thing set free, it's like this bird that isn't able to fly yet, right? It still needs some help. The child is not fully independent yet. And then it says this half-fledged thing set free. And so that's quite positive, right? You're like, wow, he's set free. He's able to do what he wants. And then from the next line, it's into a wilderness. So then it becomes a little bit more ambiguous. Is it actually positive or is it negative? Because he's been set free into a wilderness. A wilderness is somewhere where there are no rules, right? You have to make the rules yourself. You have to be able to adapt and tackle different situations. The gait of one. Gait is a way of walking, right? So he's observing the way his son walks. And he says, the gait of one who finds no path where the path should be. So he repeats the word path to the speaker, and he is showing how maybe at this point in the son's life, he's a bit directionless. He doesn't know where the path is. And this shows us the speaker's concern. He's concerned that his son hasn't found direction yet, hasn't found where the path should be at, and he really hopes that his son will find that path. But as you can see, he hasn't fully let go. Do you see how here the walking away was the son walking away from him? The speaker, the parent, hasn't yet walked away from the son. He isn't fully convinced yet that his son is truly okay with him walking away. Just yet, just yet. That hesitant figure, eddying away, like a winged seed loosened from its parent stem, has something I never quite grasped to convey about nature's give and take, the small scorching ordeals which fire one's irresolute clay. So that hesitant figure, so this shows us that the son still has no path, right? He's sort of directionless, he's hesitating, he's unsure. Eddying away. Eddying means sort of like swirling in a circular motion. So he's eddying away. He's going round in circles. He doesn't know where he's going yet. He hasn't quite found his path in life. Like a winged seed loosened from its parent's stem. So now we have another simile. A winged seed, winged shows how the seed is flying away, loosened from its parent's stem. And this is a really interesting simile when we compare it to the simile used in the very first stanza. Because a satellite going out of its orbit is not natural, right? It's wrenched. But here, a seed loosened from its parent stem, this is natural, this is normal. And it's a normal sort of natural thing for a seed to move away in order to grow and thrive. And so here we're seeing the progression. So we're seeing how the son maybe wasn't ready to go away yet in the first stanza, but now he's becoming older, he's figuring out his path maybe, he's still hesitant, but he's figuring it out, and now his parent is realizing that he needs to let him go in some way for him to actually thrive, just like a seed has to go away from its parent stem in order to thrive, in order to do well. Has something I never quite grasped to convey. And this is really why the poet has written the poem, because he's trying to come to terms with this idea. He hasn't been able to put it into words yet. He's still trying to figure it out. How is it that he has to let go in order for his son to thrive? It seems paradoxical. It seems contradictory. He's struggling to come to terms with it. About nature's give and take. So here, do you notice that it's in the present tense? So he's trying to come to terms with things in nature. Nature's give and take, this idea of having to let his son go. And the present tense shows us he's still trying to come to terms with it. He's reflecting, but it's also in the present. He's also trying to figure it out in the moment. He hasn't quite, he hasn't yet fully come to terms with it. The small, the scorching ordeals which fire one's irresolute clay. So a really, really beautiful metaphor over here. And he's saying the small scorching has connotations of being like violent, difficult, searing. Ordeals is events which fire one's irresolute clay. Irresolute means strong. And so if you think about clay, in order for clay to be strong and unbreakable, it has to go into the furnace, right? It has to be fired. And so this is what he's saying over here, is that even though it's really difficult, you have to go through all these ordeals with your child, and you have to learn how to let them go. And that's what's going to make it healthy and strong. And, um, you know, and it can be talking about the parents or probably the child in this case, yes, that this is, or even just a relationship that is healthy and necessary. It makes the relationship stronger. It makes the child stronger. So even though it's incredibly difficult for the parent, it's actually so important. It's going to help the child to thrive and succeed. I have had worse partings, but none that so gnaws at my mind still. Perhaps it is roughly saying what God alone could perfectly show, how selfhood begins with the walking away, and love is proved in the letting go. So the speaker becomes he's been quite reflective and authentic throughout the poem, but particularly in this stanza. He says, I've had worse partings, so he's had to say goodbye to many other things in his life, but none so that gnaws at my mind still. But he says the parting with his son, and I think we don't have to understand this as a very literal parting. It's not like he's never seeing his son again, but of letting his son go and letting him be his own person. That gnaws at my mind still. So gnaws means like he's struggling to grasp it, he's struggling to accept it. He still thinks about it all this time later. And there's that word still to remind us there. Perhaps it is roughly saying what God alone could perfectly show. And the use of the word perhaps really shows how conversational this poem is and how he's sort of thinking as he writes. He's like, maybe it's showing what God alone could perfectly show, meaning what is a normal process, what life is supposed to be, what, parent-child relationships are supposed to be. That's, what we see in nature. How selfhood begins with a walking away. So selfhood, the realization of who the son really is, of his self-realization. And the word begins show, it's a really positive word, right? It's something starting. It's a new journey beginning. The son is starting on his new journey. But how does it start? It starts with a walking away. It starts with the parent walking away, letting their child embark upon that journey themselves. And love is proved in the letting go. And so the true measure of a parent's love for their child is if they can actually let the child go, find himself, and be himself. So it's quite a paradoxical ending, right? Because you think to yourself, how can it possibly be? If you love someone, why are you letting them go? But in the case of a parent-child relationship, we can see how true this is and how true it's been. It's for the speaker. It's been incredibly hard for him, but he knows that in letting go, he's actually bestowing his son the best sort of love he can and allowing his journey of selfhood to be realized or to begin to be realized. So the intention of this poem is to help the poet grasp this experience of how, of letting his son go and of his son growing up. The structure of the form, as I said to you earlier, notice the repetition of away the entirety throughout the poem actually. And this really reinforces the separation of the parent and child, which is like the fundamental theme and conflict of the poem. You'll notice also there's a rhyme scheme of A, B, A, C, A in every single stanza. So we've got 4 stanzas of 5 lines each. And this really emphasizes certain words and draws connections, but it's still really authentic and it conveys a sort of conversational spontaneity. It's not too rigid. You can still see the sincerity. The theme and message is parental love, letting go, allowing your children to thrive independently. The tone and mood is reflective, at times melancholic, contemplative, nostalgic, sincere, authentic. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found the video helpful.